All right, thank you all for coming to attention, and thank you for being here. Just a quick announcement. We're going to have to cooperate and be as quiet as possible because the microphone's not working as planned. So it's just going to be the spoken voice without amplification. You guys will all manage. But it's just going to take a little extra cooperation, so we're all nice and quiet. Good afternoon and welcome to New Hyde Park Memorial High School's Evening of Poetry. We're excited to cap off our month-long celebration of language for National Poetry Month. America's greatest poet, Walt Whitman, wrote the following in Song 2 of Song of Myself. Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and the sun. And as we begin this evening's program, I'd like to submit to you that that's exactly what we are doing. We're stopping here, and in so doing, finding something substantial. To spend an afternoon with friends, to dwell together listening to verse, to venerate the written and spoken word, to join together in a community celebrating the power of language. We are in search of, and I think we'll find, the origin of all poems, not just those we hear tonight. So thank you for being here. Before turning to the program itself, there are some acknowledgments I'd like to offer. Please join me in thanking the administration for their support of this event and those that have carried throughout the entirety of National Poetry Month. With us this evening, we have Dr. Faggio, our principal. We have our assistant principals, Ms. DiGennaro, Ms. Rodriguez, and Mr. Geritano. Thanks to all. An event like this doesn't just come together, it's the work of many hands, most especially my dear colleagues, your tirelessly dedicated English teachers. This is a single event with some fanfare, but they carry the spirit of this evening to each of their classes every day. Please join me in thanking the entire department, especially those here tonight, Ms. Sensata, Ms. Kizmarczyk, Mr. Ryan, Ms. Manley, Mr. Romero is here, Ms. Keene, and then I also want to single out a couple of them. Ms. Casper, who originally conceived of this evening, it's something she's done with her classes for many years, and she was integral in the organization of all the National Poetry Month events. Ms. Ziegler, who's given much of her time to the planning of this and other National Poetry Month events, and Ms. Katz and Mr. Ryan, moderators respectively of the NEHS, and Arena, who coordinated the student volunteers. Thank you all. I'd like to thank Mr. Monet and especially Ms. Compu for coordinating the musical accompaniment for tonight's program. I'd also like to thank Dr. Marino and the entire art department for providing the art installation that we have in the back. Tonight is a celebration not only of poetry, but of all creative expression. Thank you to the custodial staff for rearranging the space so we could all be together, and to our sponsor, Parada Consulting. Their generosity made this evening possible. Finally, thank you. We can clap for them. Finally, thanks to all of you for being here tonight, especially our poets and readers. When teachers think about the profession and the reasons they want to dedicate their lives to it, this is what we have in mind. Having all of you here supporting each other and connecting over an appreciation for literature. So give yourselves a hand. Some practical points. If you are reading, you've been given a ticket. That ticket has a number and a letter on it. The number is the order. The letter is the group. When I call up your group, you guys are going to go right over there where Ms. Sensata is and Ms. Casper and Ms. Katz. Does that make sense? We'll get you in order, and then we'll get you up here to read. Emma and Ms. Tomsky will be playing some music. There's no reason to rush up here. There'll be some lovely music to accompany the transition. Now on to the program. Thank you. I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Matt Paska. He's here to share some of his work and to talk about the power of language. I read from his website's biography. Matt Paska is a poet, teacher, editor, and traveler who believes in art's ability to foster discovery, empathy, and justice. His first book-length collection, 1,000 Doors, was nominated for a Pushcart Prize, and his second, Ravenwire, was selected as a finalist for the 2017 Eric Hoffer Book Award. Named the 2022 Long Island Poet of the Year by the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association, Matt serves as assistant poetry editor for Two Bridges Review and curates Second Saturdays at Cyrus, a vibrant poetry series in his hometown of Bayshore. A 2003 New York State Teacher of Excellence, Matt has taught poetry, mythology, and literature at Bayshore High School for the past 24 years. where he also advises the award-winning literary art magazine, The Writer's Block. Please join me in offering a warm, hearty, gladiator welcome to poet Matt Paska.
I just noticed the big gladiator signs as I was driving in here. That's a really, really cool mascot thing. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, you're
And it's really fantastic to be under the octopus here. Jill noticed. Thank you, Mr. Otten, for organizing this and inviting me and all the other faculty here and the administrators. And what a cool event, a fantastic way to close out National Poetry Month. And I love that so many people are here in honor of poetry, which is fantastic. I know people in my own life who have no idea what I do. They don't care about what I do. I have colleagues in my own English department who don't like poetry. I think a lot of people are what I call homophobic because they have been taught poetry poorly and don't understand it and have been probably taught all the wrong things about it. I want to start by asking you, how many of you like musical theater? Good. How many of you don't understand why people break into song? Okay, you can admit that. I think you're growing up in a golden age of Moana and Encanto and Dear Evan Hansen and Hamilton and In the Heights, and we kind of generally we're cool with people just breaking into song. When I grew up a long time ago, it was not really something people liked, and they made fun of it a lot. And I grew up in a family, probably as some of the other people who are adults here did, that made fun of musical theater all the time. We didn't have all these really great Disney and Pixar films or some of these new exciting musicals. And every time someone broke into song, there was groaning, there was eye rolling, and all these other kinds of things. So I grew up kind of thinking that way. And then I married someone with a degree in musical theater. And you should always, some advice, if you spend your life with a partner or married or whatever, make sure they're smarter than you. It is the best thing, right? Because then you're always learning all the time. And she was shocked that I did not understand why people broke into song, because she knew I was a writer, she knew I was a poet. So if you think about these moments when characters break into song, they almost all have one thing in common. They come at a moment of deep complexity, of emotional depth, of worlds colliding, of Moana's father saying she can't go beyond the reef while the ocean is calling her to go. And at those moments, the language that we have, that we communicate with day after day, fails us. We no longer have the words, right? And that's when people break into song. That is the convention. That is the device of musical theater. We break into song because it's a different kind of language, right? And then the song's over and they go back to not knowing what to do. Poetry is very much the same thing. It gives us language when we don't have the language to say what it is we want to say. And on a personal note, this was true for me. Not liking musical theater was the least of my family's issues. I grew up with a terminally ill father who died when I was 15. When I was a middle school student, I used to go home and I was his main caretaker until the evening. My mom was a librarian, props to librarians. She worked 3 jobs. I had an older brother who was angry and abusive, and through it all, I really didn't have much of a voice. I was the younger brother, no voice. Really until I was 11, I didn't speak much, and that's when someone donated a Commodore 64 to my family. Anyone know what that is? It was, for a long time, the most popular personal computer ever made. And 1983 was kind of its heyday, and I was 9 then. So when I was 11, I got someone's discarded Commodore 64, and I plugged it in and loaded it up, and it had that blinking cursor that maybe you've seen in old movies. And I started writing, and it changed my life. And that was 37 years ago, and I have not stopped. And what writing has given me is beyond my ability to articulate to you. It's why I became a teacher. It's why I work with students. It's why I couldn't wait to come here tonight. Poetry and writing gave me a voice. It helped me figure out who I was. I think a lot of people have this misconception that writers just kind of, they dictate their ideas onto, a page or into a program. Really, we write to figure out what it is we think, right? We write to figure it out. My students, one of the most important things we do is free writing. And I just kind of drill it into them. Do not think. Do not think. Just keep writing. Just keep writing. Right? Mr. Paska's an idiot. Whatever it is that you want to say, just keep writing, because if we're trying to control our thoughts, we're not discovering anything, right? We're judging, we're evaluating, we have to get out of that mindset. Obviously, poetry is also a place where we can play, where we can express ourselves, where we can try out ideas, where we can try out conclusions, where we can be wrong, where we can fail without consequence. It's a way that we can time travel by going into the past, by writing to ourselves in the future. We can also very much renew. And I know that was the theme of the program for so many of your poems, right? Which I had the privilege to see many of those, and I'm excited to hear them in person. Because, I have to say, I teach a poetry class 9th period, and we're all exhausted by that. And we sit and we write for 10 minutes to start the period, and I think we all just feel kind of rejuvenated. We have an ability to get back into the private world of our consciousness, into the complexity of who we are, the nuances of who we are. And there's something really powerful in that. The last thing, because I don't want to take too much time from all the amazing readers here, is, we want to see the world differently. We have to see the world differently in order to think about it differently. And I often, when people ask about, I've been to a million conferences or readings where someone asked a famous author, what should I do to become a writer? And they always give the same answer. You know what it is? Sometimes. They often say read. And that's important. We're in a library. I'm a big fan. But I do think writing is probably a really important way to become a writer. But I would also say it's about using your 5 senses more consciously. You have to be able to see in order to be able to analyze and make sense of your world in creative and outside of the box kinds of ways. The root word of attention, right, paying attention, the Latin is attendere, probably saying that wrong. But the root word attendere means to stretch toward, to stretch toward. So if we're passively paying attention to life, we are not embodying the word intendere. And I think to really make your writing rich and to make your own life richer and to be a more reflective person, which is really a big part of how we make meaning of our time here, is to be more conscious about noticing, right? Instead of worrying about being late, I was very interested in, right outside the school, I think there's a dead squirrel or a dead baby bunny or something like that in the road, and I was watching some students take pictures of it. And that was, a really fascinating image to me, and I'm collecting that, right? So you have to pay attention to the world around you. Forget about the prepackaged stuff that's just telling you that, you turn on News 12 and you think the world is over tomorrow. Pay attention to the actual life around you with your 5 senses. That's really important. I think half of being a writer is seeing and hearing and experiencing as a writer. Because then when you go to your notebook, you have more sensory information, you have more details, you have more data to download into your notebook, to use kind of a computer metaphor there. The last piece is the communal power of language, which is really on display tonight. When we share our writing, we give such a gift to other people. I often think of all the arts as a compassion gym, right? Every time you go to a show or watch a film or listen to an album or listen to someone's poem, it is expanding your ability to walk in the shoes of someone else, to experience a world that you haven't experienced. And as our compassion grows, our ego shrinks. And that's where really amazing things happen, creatively, interpersonally, and I think communally. So keep doing what you're doing. My 11th grade English teacher one day asked me after class, "Do you write anything outside of school?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Can I see it?" And I brought it in, and that was all I needed to think about possibly becoming an English teacher. So that you have people here listening to you, who want to hear your work, who are encouraging you to write work, this is a blessing. And I get a sense you're grateful for it. There's incredible energy in the room. And I hope that our sharing and our expanding compassion helps us become better activists for ourselves and each other. And I will tie it up there because I know we have a long program and I want to hear all of your work. Want to hear a few poems? All right. I just picked a few that were kind of in the theme of renewal or about some of the comments I shared with you before. It's very difficult to pick just a few, but this one, I hated science class as a student. It was my least favorite, but I was always remembering the metaphors because I could use them in my writing. So if you're someone who's not really a math and science person like myself, that's where all the great metaphors are. So pay attention to those. I love science, but just not science class. Anyway, one of the things that they don't tell you when you're young, and I wish they had, is you get this idea that once you lose like your innocence, you don't get it back. That's not true. My wife and I, neither of us really had a childhood, and it turns out you can have one when you're older. And that innocence and love and wonder are renewable resources. So that idea that like once you lose something, it's gone, it's not true. So that's, I think, a point of encouragement. This is called No New Water, and it's about the water table and what I just said. Luckily, it's all the same. The Precambrian sea on Einstein's toothbrush. Noah's deluge, an icicle dangling from a dive bar awning. So when you and I met, recalled selves that sponged dew from marigolds, somersaulted through saffron streets and read the braille of each other's scars, the rains came, pounding with the crackle of hot oil, splashing in buttercup skips over parched fields and riven beds I had learned to moisten with my spit. We, this charmed torrent, bathing the land, downpour of all the love we were born with, returning for good. The second poem is about seeing the world a little bit differently than the people around you. I am terrible at small talk. I think most of my colleagues, after working with me for 25 years, just don't bother. It's not because I'm not nice or friendly, it's that I'm usually just somewhere else in my head, and I don't know what to say because I have 3,000 things to say, so I just choose not to say any of them. I don't know if anyone can relate to that. So this is called Orange Zero. Some people are unmoved by amaryllis petals shriveling under rows of chain-link diamonds, or swimsuit racks streaked with rust and sawdust at the back of Sears, their ears unpinned to power lines raving with amphibious chatter. I study it all, like ultraviolet light in a lizard cage, wondering what intestine of syllables will uncoil me, drive to work with Venus and a waning gibbous over violet groves, slowed by my stare, then peripherally sped into smear. Some people hear a song without dislodging it to bass notes, dropped like bombs in sepia documentaries, or crows flapping like black-winged heartbeats across staff paper sky. Maybe everyone is a hangman's hood falling to the sound of automated bells, or yak fat mantras chanted over quivering bowls and snowy cutouts of quantum bones we sometimes were. Like a zero is both circular and infinite, Ouroboros eating its tail, or a poem, or atoms shared with Mars. In math, x is sometimes followed by x prime, and sometimes, in a shower stall of coursing soap and blind exfoliation, I am neither. Only husk, occupant of anything, even the steam or the glass knob forged in primal furnace, an orange zero glowing in the dowel-struck dark. And this last of the three poems is another cool science fact that I found out and made me think of this poem. And I appreciate your attention. So I'm the opening act for you all, and thanks for listening, right? My CDs are here. This is called Virga. There is a kind of rain that never hits the ground, never collects in fat pools to reveal your flaws, wriggling like worms. The ex-wife, misplaced money, lost friendships strung like shark teeth on a thread. Do not confuse this rain with the kind pelting the hosta patch, the deck chairs and bike chains, the one leaking through ceilings onto splash cymbals my 12-year-old summons like a sorcerer. If I were to die, rain might or might not exist. The hostas, azaleas, plastic pails, my drummer son, I would no longer be woven into rain's measures like a fermata or coda, and maybe no eye would be mirrored in water. Only branches and nude grapevines shimmering in ribbed twilight, wordless, free of mistakes. Sometimes the post-storm moonlight shatters my pupils, and my wife and words are all I have. Long ago, every feeling demanded alms. but time makes little sense now. The seasons spin like a top, and I stand in the road, a heretic of presence, sniffing the sulfur of struck stone, licking salt from her mouth, and typing another verse to be read when I am gone. Virga is a kind of rain that evaporates before hitting the ground. And really, isn't that all this ever is?
The Opposites Game, for Patricia Maish. This day, my students and I played the Opposites Game with a line from Emily Dickinson. My life had stood a loaded gun. It goes, and I write it on the board, pausing so they can call out the antonyms. My, your, life, death, had stood, will sit. A, many, loaded, empty, gun, gun. For a moment, very much like the one between lightning and its sound, the children just stare at me. And then it comes, a flurry, a hailstorm of answers. Flower, says one. No, book, says another. That's stupid, cries a third. The opposite of a gun is a pillow. Not a book. No way is it a book. With this, the others gather their thoughts. And suddenly, it's a shouting match. No one can agree. For every student, there's a final answer. It's a song, a prayer, a promise, like a wedding ring, and later, a baby? Or what's that person who delivers babies? A midwife. Yeah, a midwife. No, that's wrong. You're so wrong you'll never be right again. It's a whisper, a star. It's saying I love you into your hand and then touching someone's ear. Are you crazy? Are you the president of Stupid Land? You should be. When's the election? It's a teddy bear, a sword, a perfect peach. Go back to the first one. It's a flower, a white rose. When the bell rings, I reach for an eraser, but a girl snatches it from my hand. Nothing's decided, she says. We're not done here. I leave all the answers on the board. The next day, some of them have stopped talking to each other. They've taken sides. There's a flower club, and a kitten club, and 2 boys calling themselves the Snowballs. The rest have stuck with the original game, which was to try to write something like poetry. It's a diamond. It's a dance. The opposite of a gun is a museum in France. It's the moon. It's a mirror. It's the sound of a bell and the hearer. The arguing starts again, more shouting, and finally a new club. For the first time, I dare to push them. Maybe all of you are right, I say. Well, maybe. Maybe it's everything we said. Maybe it's everything we didn't say. It's words and the spaces for words. They're looking at each other now. It's everything in this room and everything outside this room and down the street and in the sky. It's everyone on campus and at the mall and all the people waiting at the hospital and at the post office. And yeah, it's a flower too. All the flowers, the whole garden. The opposite of a gun is wherever you point it. Don't write that on the board, they say. Just say poem. Your death will sit through many empty poems.
My name is Emily, and I'm being performed by Emily Dickinson. They shut me up in clothes. They shut me up in clothes, as when a little girl, they put me in a closet, because they liked me still. Still. Could them themselves have peeked and seen my brain go round? They might as wise have lodged a bird for treason in the pound. Himself has but too well, and easy as a star, look down upon captivity and laugh. No more have I.
So, I'm Paska, and I'm going to be reading The Owl and the Chimpanzee by Joe Camacho. The owl and the chimpanzee went to sea in a beautiful boat called the Mine. The owl was sensible, clever, and smart. The chimp was a little behind. The owl made decisions based on fact and knew where to steer its ship. The chimp reacted a little too fast, and often the boat would tip. The waves would come and crash aboard, and the chimp would start to cry. Large tears would roll right down his face, afraid that he would die. The chimp and the owl would wrestle at night when the world was quiet and still. The chimp would jump up and rock the boat, and the boat would start to fill. Then the owl stepped in and grabbed a pail and started to empty it out. And the chimp would start to get quite cross and often would scream and shout. The battle continued night after night until the chimp started to see that if it let the owl take control, a more peaceful night it would be.
I'm presenting my friend's poem, which can be found in the arena. It's known as Limited Time by my friend Matthew Richard. Unsung memories never seen, stuck in my head in between the memory of the beach and my seashells, to that limited time chalupa at Taco Bell, the one with bacon instead of ground beef. When I was 6, I learned how to swim. I lost my first race and realized that I could win. But I lost, and I forgot, and I tried again. I swam again in the last lane. Then oops, I did even worse. Swimming was the dumbest thing in the universe. I got into my car and I stared out the window, and I felt so empty, like a loser, so hollow. And then my mom looked at me and dropped a bombshell. Son, they have a new limited time chalupa at Taco Bell. It has this new chipotle sauce, and it's pretty good. I kind of forgot about my aquatic non-performance. I practiced hard and said, Coach, give me another chance. And put my goggles on race day. I closed my eyes and started to pray. That I would win just once, that's all I ask. The whistle, the dive, and then 4 laps. I moved my limbs and give it my all, and then I reached the final wall. And I won by a second, but I got the win. I remember that day and the ribbon. But there's an unsung memory that no one knows. I got a limited time chalupa from Taco Bell that day too. It was really good. Well, I didn't make it so crispy.
Hi, my name's Dhruv Maheshwari, and I don't know what made me write this blackout poem. It's pretty depressing and short. Alright, get ready to cry. A smile could not have felt worse. I haven't had much warm love, I suppose.
Good evening, my name is Dickinson. I'm in grade 11. So this poem right here, I wrote for the Walton contest, and the theme everyone would know is renewal. And I really had to sit down and think what renewal meant to me. And I reached back into my roots, my culture. I'm Hindu, and one of the stories that I've been told was during, is the Shavatar, the 10 avatars of Vishnu, and in the first story, it basically was talking about the creation of the world being this very blank space, not much going on, but a lot going on at the same time, very mundane space. So I wanted to write something about that. So this is called Renewal. The world is lit dimly. She stands at the edge of the sea, with her hands clasped together. She enters the azure waves. The world is lit dimly. Eyes squinting, she could see the morning sun is shrouded, yet there are slivers of illumination. The world is lit dimly. She says a prayer to the morning sun, head bows to the southern skies where the sun can see. The world is lit dimly. The temple bells chime, yet the laughter of children chime louder. She steps out of the water and onto the shore. The clouds begin to give way for the sun, although the world stays the same. Thank you.
Hi. Today I'll be sharing a short poem by poet entitled He Loves History. He wanted to write a biography of John Quincy Adams. I, shamefully, knew almost nothing about John Quincy Adams. So I went online and bought every biography of him I could find. One day he called me, claiming that we wouldn't work out in the long term. He said he loved me, but that we had different interests. What does love mean to you, I said. That's an impossible question, he replied. I, however, find love to be quite simple.
Love is the stack of biographies on my nightstand with a bookmark near the end.
Hi, my name is Alex, and I'm going to be reading a poem called Dreams by Dickinson. Hold fast to your dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen in snow.
Hi, my name is Linda, and I'm going to be reading a poem by Hyde called On the Train, a Man Snatches My Book. On the train, a man snatches my book, reads the last line, and says, I completely get you. You're not that complex. He could be right. Lately, all my what-ifs are about breath. What if a glass blower inhales after long moment? What if I'm drifting on a sailboat and the wind stops? If he'd ask me how I'm feeling, I'd give them the long version. I feel as if I'm on the moon, listening to the air hiss out of my spacesuit, and I can't find the home. I'm the vice president of Penn, and the president is missing. Most nights, I calm myself by listing animals on the least concerned end of the extinction spectrum. Aardvarks and blackbirds are fine. Minnows thrive, though this brings me no relief. They can swim through sludge if they have to. I don't think I've ever written the word doom, but nothing else fits. Every experience seems both urgent and unnatural. Like right now, this train is approaching the station when my beloved is waiting to take me to the orchard so we can pay for the memory of having once, at dusk, plucked real apples from real trees.
My name is Muhammad Adam, and I'm in 11th grade, and I dedicate this poem to one of my favorite teachers, Ms. Del Vecchio. Hope. When pain is crackling up through pavement and smokes of sorrow fill the air, when the skies cast stares of uncertainty and the winds of change blow through your hair, tomorrow brings a brighter day, a day to start anew. The sun will rise again to shine its light on you.
I do wonder drifted in the moon's spirit, and I serve the very thing. I do her orbs upon the moon. The cowslips call her the years deep. In their gold coast spots you see, in their dopey rubies fairy flavors. In those speckles live their savior. I must go seek some dewdrops here and hang a pill in every cowslip's ear.
My name is Annalise. I'm a ninth grader, and I'm going to read a poem entitled Slowly Begins, which was the name the Arawak natives of modern-day Puerto Rico actually named the island when they still moved there. A lot of the poem isn't in English, just no wonder. Nanichi Boriken. Anakeno ako wakiagwe, wakiakaraya, Boriken, the land of the brave and valiant people, Tainos. Taka Taino, and the people, Nana and Guayuri, Inaru and Eyeri, Taituno and Tatiao, Waka Guaytiao, even though we've never met. Thank you.
It's a simple free verse poem I wrote about my brother. He's 8 going to 9, and he's just now beginning to undergo, his perception is beginning to undergo changes about how he views the world, and I started writing about that. It doesn't have a name, up until 30 minutes ago, so I just called it Lens, just for the fun of it. Probably tweak it later.
My brother recently just got new glasses. His new glasses are navy blue and have 2 black stripes running vertically down the temple. 2 temples, 4 black stripes total. His old glasses were navy blue with no stripes, but black temple tips. The new glasses come with new lenses. They are rectangular, the old one's square. For 6 years, a pair of dark, thick brown eyes have been observing life with 2 square lenses. Now with 2 rectangular lenses, those same eyes will undergo a different viewing experience. He'll see things differently, but perhaps it isn't due to the glasses.
Love Like Salt by Lizelle Muller. It lies in our hands in crystals too intricate to decipher. It goes into the skillet without being given a second thought. It spills on the floor so fine we step all over it. We carry a pinch behind each eyeball. It breaks out on our foreheads. We store it inside our bodies in secret wineskins. At supper, we pass it around the table, talking of holidays by the sea. Love like salt.
I took a really comical because I could not stop for death by Emily Dickinson. You guys probably know it. Because I could not stop for death, she kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civilities. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the rain. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dew strewn, quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only pill. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day. I first surmised the horse's head, were toward eternity.
Also known as I met a man who wasn't there. Yesterday, upon a stair, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish he'd go away. When I came home last night after the man was waiting there for me. But when I looked around the hall, I couldn't see him there at all. Go away, don't you come back anymore. Go away, and please don't slam the door. Last night I saw upon the stair a little man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today, or I wish he'd go away.
Hi, my name is Hannah. I wrote called A Storm in the Night about my biggest fear, thunderstorms. Cold air climbs through my open window, making me shiver in the night. I can hear the sounds of thunder, and I can see the long streaks of light. The dim lamp by my bed flickers, the power is going out. I think I can hear the wind whisper, or maybe it's a quiet shout. I check the clock on my wall and see the late hour. It's nearly 3 and I'm awake. I can't fall asleep. There's a horrible feeling I can't shake.
Hi everyone, I'm Selena John and my quote is On the Death of Anne Bullock by Charlotte Moss. This is a joy in life for me, and literature in the grave. I've lived the parting hour to see of one I would have died to save. Calmly to watch the failing breath, wishing inside my being the last, longing to see the shade of death over those beloved people's past. The cloud, the stillness that must part the darling of my life for me. And then, to thank God from my heart, to thank him well and fervently. Although I knew that we had lost the hope and glory of our life, and now, united, tempest tossed, must bear alone this very fight.
Hi, hey everyone, my name is Paska. The poem I'll be reading is an original, and it's about my first experience going on call as a volunteer emergency medical responder. For me, getting my license as a first responder was the easy part, but being emotionally prepared for the calls has been the hardest. I see people in the worst state of their lives. Car accidents, neurological disorders, cardiac arrests, you name it. And doing this during the pandemic has truly opened my eyes and appreciation for just how much first responders sacrifice, as well as what it takes to be a compassionate human being. Before I start, my first call was at Creedmoor Center in response to a violent psych group. Okay. So the title is Renewal of Empathy. Opening the doors of the psych institution, now a certified first responder, I was prepared to take action. My 16-year-old self took a deep breath, and in rushed a reminder of death. Many eyes, oh how many eyes were on me, with the intent of malice or simple concern I couldn't see. But my attention was the man on the floor. He lay with aggressiveness writhing to his core. I watched as my partners lifted him. Fear swept over me, trembling every limb. I was frozen. Maybe it was the wrong job I had chosen. With great tenderness, my partners carried him to the ambulance. Oh, how I was utterly full of thankfulness. As we took his vitals, my partner stroked the patient's arm, and told him he was safe from all harm, that we would do everything and anything to keep him breathing. But at this moment, I saw something more. I saw what made me poor. Between two beings, I saw pure love and compassion spread. Within minutes, all my dread had now fled. It was a complete renewal of empathy, to love, to care, to show sympathy. For a complete stranger, it made no difference, because we are all humans in the same existence.
So, my name is Nicole. I'm in ninth grade, and so this is my own poem. So yeah, I wrote it like a year ago, and I just realized there was a lot of things that I did in this world, and I wasn't sure what I believed, and so I called it us versus. Well, I just called it today us versus them. You taught them how to think, and you taught them how to act. You taught them to believe this, and you taught them to believe that. You taught them the other was evil, and evil was taught that of good. When one disagreement means hatred, then where is the love? Everyone has a heart, but really the heart is a mind. Everybody is right in a reality that is their own. But if everybody has a reality, then why not just leave the other ones alone? The answer is simple. We are driven by passion. And when our passion is challenged by someone else's, our realities are attacked. But if we are all attacking, then we are all bad. The truth is everyone is bad, but the same can be said for good.
My name is Josh, and I wrote this poem called Memory Tree. We all are different, and that's a fact. Different memories, different emotions. Memories that bloom and fade away. They come back and fill us with feelings. Feelings of happiness, sadness, and sometimes confusion. And they fall and disappear when petals of a blossom from the tree each spring. They come back next year, bloom and shine once again. Memories of their family and friends. Memories with their moms and dads. Memories with their brothers and sisters. We all have those memories with their beloved. Memories filled with culture and variety. We share those memories with those who will listen. We have stories to tell. We sit under our memory tree waiting for the blossoms to bloom again.
Hi guys, my name is Ishita Bansal, as yes, some of you may know me. And today I will be reading a poem by an old Russian kook who you may know. Alexei Konstantinovich Trotsky, better known as Leo Trotsky, wrote this poem called Do Not Believe in 1869. So it's old. But he quotes, Do not believe, my dearest, when I say that I no longer love you. When the tide ebbs, do not believe the sea, it will return anew. Already I long for you, and passion fills me. I yield my freedom thus to you once more. Already the waves return with shouts and glee to fill again that same beloved shore. I was honored when Mr. Monnet and Mr. Otten offered to have me sing for you guys today. So I decided that if it was going to be an English event, I had to do something based in literature. So I was deeply, deeply, deeply touched by your words about musical theater, because this song is from a musical called Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. It's written by the same Russian kook, Leo Trotsky, and it's based off of the book War and Peace. A very, very short novel, you know. But let me connect my iPad. Okay. Now then, I hope that you enjoy. First time life inside of our souls, and nobody knows, just you and me. It's our secret. This winter sky, how can anyone sleep? There was never such a night before. I feel like putting my arms around my knees and squeezing tight as possible and like this. Oh, the snow in the moonlight, and your childlike eyes, and your distance a mile. I'll never feel this happy again. You and I, you and I, you and I. And no one else. Maybe he'll come today. Maybe he came already, and he's sitting in the drawing room. And I simply forgot.
My name is Emma, and I'm going to be reading a poem by Robert Frost entitled Nothing Gold Instead. Nature's first green is gold, her heart is here to hold. Her early leaves a flower, but only so it out. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so even sank to green. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. My name is Evelyn York, and I'm 9 years old, and I'm going to read a poem called A Quiet Prayer. I've never been stung by a beast. I'm a creature of such intelligence and diligence, a child of Mother Nature herself. Kissed by the sun and born of the same earth as you and I, and be so consumed in his hatred. As the plunge itself into death's icy abyss, oblivious to the price of its senseless revenge, which leaves its adversary with so much as a nick of a greater time, and the bee, breathing its last dying breaths, agony and confusion. I pray I'll never understand.
Hi, my name is Alina Jacob, and I'm going to be reading a poem about music. I lie on my bed with all these thoughts in my head. How should I feel? Are these emotions even real? What should I do? I have not a clue. I open my phone, see all these apps at home. All I wish for is comfort, but all I hear outside is the thunder and a faint tune from downstairs, which sort of brings that comfort I hope for, that I so yearn. So I decided to put some of my own on to try to get me in my zone. And soon the thoughts started to fade, all these thoughts of love and hate. I sank into the lyrics as I gave a frown, in the music I let myself drown.
Hi, my name is Deborah. I'm in 11th grade, and the poem I'm reading is by Rabindranath Tagore. Most of you may not know him. He's actually a Nobel laureate. And this poem that he's written, it's called Chitto Jeta Bhoy Shunyo, meaning where the mind was without fear. And I chose this poem because I feel it's relevant to our time. And at a time he wrote it, it was at a time where the oppressors were not listening to the oppressed. And we've seen that situation now. So I feel that it's relevant. Chitto jeta bhoy shunyo, উচ্চ যেটা শির, জ্ঞান যেটা মুক্ত, যেটা গৃহের প্রাচীর, আপন প্রাঙ্গণের তলে দিবস স্বর্গরী, বসুধারে রাখে নাই খণ্ড ক্ষুদ্র করি, যেসব বাক্য হৃদয়ের উৎস মুখ হতে উচ্ছ্বাসিয়া উঠে, যেটা নির্বারিত সূচি, দেশে দেশে দিশে দিশে কর্মধারা ধারে অজস্র সহস্র বিদ্য চরিতার্থতায় যেটা তুচ্ছ আচারের মরু বালুরাশি বিচারের স্রোতে পথ ফেলে নাই গ্রাসী পৌরুষেরে করেনি শতধা নিত্য যেতা তুমি সর্বকর্ম চিন্তা আনন্দের নেতা নিজ হস্তে নির্দয় আঘাত করি পিত ভারতের সেই স্বর্গ কর জাগরিত থ্যাংক ইউ
Before I start, this poem was about, it's a reminder. So for the past few years, we went through a lot. And what this poem serves is to remind you that whenever life throws at you, there's always going to be someone that's going to stand by you. Whether it be family, friends, faculty, or a random person walking by. One night, a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him, and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times in his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. Lord, you said that once I decide to follow you, you'll walk with me all the way. But I've noticed that during the most troublesome times in my life, there's only one set of footprints. I don't understand. Why, when I needed you most, you would leave me? The Lord replied, my precious, precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I chose you. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters.
Walaikum salam.
So I'm Fatima Naisa, and this poem is actually the Walt Whitman's contest and the renewal. So actually I based this off from my roots, which is I'm a Muslim, and the story is basically there was this man who desperately wanted to get into paradise, and he did like all he could. He prayed, he did all his good deeds, he gave charity, he did everything. He went to the messenger one day and he was like, okay, can you tell me if I can get into paradise? He said, no, you're not. So he was like, why? He's like, okay, this man, he's going to get into paradise. He pointed to a random man. He's like, okay, I'm going to follow him and see what he does differently. So he follows him for a day. He does the exact same things that he actually does. And he's like, then how come I'm not going to paradise and you are? And he tells him, oh, every night before I go to sleep, I stand in front of the mirror and I look into myself. I forgive myself and others who oppressed me, who held something against me, and I let my heart go free. So this poem's name is Speculated Remission. After day, famished and sapped, look into thyself, the deeds those around. Touch thy base, deep, speculate those within, one breaking up the wave of those scattering all. Evoke inside, reflect, forgive, desires touched, hidden self. To be seen in thy wave, the point symmetrical to recondite, instead maxed out, dead within. Forgive within, as a reminder, to know what be inside. Amongst them forgive those who agonizes, to find the one without weight. To be amongst the sky, instead of drowning beneath the golden wave. Just look inside and reflect the hidden.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ismail Al-Motedi. I'm a 7th grader, and today I'll be reading the poem Torture to Treasure, made by me. Clavering of people when arriving to a new place, like the sounds and cheers in a soccer game. Interminable and endless maybe, and known of what to come, some different and the same. Known to cheer some up, some different candies and cakes. Every step of the way, a sullen trace. Engineers and technicians with thoughts to make. Ducks and fish glistening in the lake. Compassion and love with many more memories to make. Oh, what happiness, no fright, a whole world to embrace. Oh, what joy and delight, each with a jolly face.
I'll be reading a short poem by Christy and Martin. Luna lifted me up into the wings. where I dance to the rhythm of the evergreen, swing to the tune of the northern breeze, frozen in timeless melody.
I'm Caitlin, and I'm in 9th grade. I'm doing a poem called And I Wonder Where You Are, by Tanaya Linder. Sacred stars blanket in nighttime sky. Each light reminds us of the consciousness of life. Your memory lives along the Milky Way. Each twinkle saying, don't forget my name. It's an epidemic, a sickness of years, a war we enter as soon as we are birthed. Indigenous women, girls, are two-spirited. When did this world start disappearing you?
I am beyond impressed by the work that we've seen tonight. I'm so appreciative of all of you for sharing your words. I'm going to invite Matt back up for one last reading and a few closing words before we depart. Okay, thank you, Matt Paska.
You are really, really fantastic. I feel tremendously renewed. I know that's your theme. What you've done here tonight is just about as ancient a thing as humans do. Sit around and listen to each other tell stories and play music and be brave and take risks. It's something we've been doing for thousands of years, and it's really amazing to be in this room tonight. And again, your faculty and administration and student body should be really proud of this. So fantastically done. And it's been really lovely to listen to you. I wanted to just say a few things that it's, even if a poem does not strike you, it's important to be around heightened language, to be around something that someone's created. One of the imbalances of poetry is that a poem sometimes takes someone years to work on and 25 seconds to read. And so if in those 25 seconds it's not somehow revealed to you, that's okay. It's something that you can come back to or just let it wash over you. And sometimes something's just not your jam. And so keep creating, keep being honest, keep being truthful in your work, be creative. The world doesn't necessarily need more greeting cards, and it also doesn't need more locked doors that someone's challenging someone else to pick. I've been an editor and read thousands and thousands of poems, and there's some people who are just challenging other people to see how smart they are. That's not really useful. What we're doing tonight is useful, connecting with each other. So be truthful, be honest, and be creative in your work. I'm going to share a poem that I wrote in a workshop, and I say that because you can always be learning more and always be trying new things, no matter how many decades you've been honing your craft. And the workshop was on June 1st, and in my family that's a very important date. This June 1st, it'll be 19 years since my first date with my wife. And this June 1st, it'll be 26 years that she has been clean and sober from drugs and alcohol, which have made everything else in our lives possible. Props to her. She had a worse childhood than I did. Not that it's a competition. But on this June 1st, instead of writing about these big events, I just focused on the everyday blessings that were around me on that particular day when our children are 14 and 16 now. We have two redheads, with neon orange, toxic waste dump orange. And they're both taller than I am. It's crazy. So, but this is when they were. So, this is called June 1st, and really, thank you for having me here. And if you're ever in Bayshore, give me a shout. Our baby is almost 5. He eats olives, knows the difference between ride, crash, and hi-hat cymbals, and says things like, "Daddy, imagine we're on a chessboard, and I'm a pawn and you are the knight." He likes spotting leaves at the bottom of our uncovered pool, its murky depth slowly morphing to emerald. He bends close and points, a single orange hair against the screaming rhododendron blossoms, their high C pressing down on us like a hand. It is 10 years to the day I first met his mother. I was on crutches in the rain. We ordered fruit salad in a city cafe and talked for 8 hours. It is still that way, only more. A decade of ladders climbed to overlooks of joy, wider vistas to come. Today she asked for half a tomato in a bag, and as I opened the refrigerator, we sang, "Half a tomato in a bag." At the same moment, exact key and rhythm, unplanned. My oldest is inside the house reading. The goldfinches flutter upside down on the feeder. The dogwood petals have fallen, and the 10 o'clock heat wisps across my face like a mustache. A solitary plane pricks the skin of leisurely sky. In the pool, leaves rise from the friction, float into my net. My son's eyes widen, and he asks me if I will hold him upside down and play him like a bass. At night, he and his brother breathe down the hall, sleep to a recording of ocean waves. My wife and I hold hands atop the sheets, windows open, the legs of crickets rubbing through the room.
Okay, folks, again, I want to thank you. Let's just give one more round of applause. Inspiring, hold on, folks, we're almost done. Thank you for your inspiring words, for sharing your work with us, and for hearing our work. The practical point, if you need a signature for a class credit thing, you can see any of the English teachers who are here, and we'll sign off for you. Other than that, I just want to say thanks again, and we'll see you tomorrow at Home in Your Pocket Day, all right?